January 7, 2026, dawned like any other in Manila, jeepneys rumbling, street food sizzling, the city alive with its usual energy and rhythm. The sun rose over the skyline, casting a golden glow on the bustling streets as vendors set up their stalls and commuters hurried to work, unaware of the storm that was about to break. But inside our newsroom, tension crackled in the air, thicker than the morning humidity. Phones rang off the hook, editors barked orders, and every eye was glued to the monitors, waiting for the next update. Breaking news. China launches unprecedented military drills around Taiwan. The words flashed across our screens, urgent and impossible to ignore. The headline wasn't just international news. It was a threat on our doorstep, a chilling reminder of how close global tensions could come to home. The distance between Taiwan and the Philippines' northernmost islands is alarmingly small, just a narrow stretch of sea separating us from the unfolding crisis. As the city outside went about its morning, the news began to spread, radio, social media, TV, turning calm into unease. The usual chatter faded, replaced by whispers of worry and speculation. People in Quiapo and Makati stared at their phones, conversations shifting from routine to urgent. Even the most mundane tasks were interrupted by the constant ping of news alerts. The headlines became a shadow over daily life, a direct threat to the peace we'd known for decades. The city's usual vibrancy was dulled by a collective anxiety, as if everyone was waiting for the other shoe to drop. In the media, our role shifted, not just to report, but to guide the public through fear without causing panic. Every word, every image had to be chosen with care. Every bulletin, every interview, carried new weight. The responsibility felt heavier than ever, knowing that millions were hanging on our every update. For ordinary Filipinos, this wasn't about geopolitics, it was about family, livelihood, and national sovereignty. Parents worried about their children's safety, workers wondered if their jobs were at risk, and everyone questioned what tomorrow might bring. By midday, Manila's mood had changed. The usual lunchtime buzz was replaced by anxious speculation. Would flights be canceled? Would the economy suffer? Was the country prepared for what might come next? The uncertainty was palpable, hanging over every conversation. The headlines had shattered our sense of normalcy, forcing us to confront a reality we'd long dreaded. The city felt different, quieter, more cautious, as if everyone was bracing for impact. The crisis was here, and the nation was holding its breath. In every corner of Manila, people paused, united by a shared sense of uncertainty and resolve. All eyes turned north, watching the turbulent waters with a shared sense of foreboding. The horizon, once a symbol of hope, now seemed to hold only questions. The story was no longer about distant powers. It was about us, right here, right now. Manila had become the front line, and every Filipino felt the weight of history unfolding in real time. China's military exercises were massive, warships slicing through waves, fighter jets roaring overhead, and the thunder of engines echoing across the open sea. The scale and precision of these maneuvers sent a clear message to the world. China was flexing its military muscle, and it was doing so right on our doorstep. One exclusion zone for missile tests bled directly into the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, raising alarms about sovereignty and safety for everyone in the region. This wasn't just about Taiwan. The Philippines was caught in the crossfire, with its own security and interests suddenly at risk. The Bashi Channel, separating Taiwan from Batanes, became a theater of war games, its strategic importance now more obvious than ever. Chinese vessels patrolled waters Filipino fishermen had sailed for generations, forcing locals to navigate not just the sea, but a growing sense of danger. The line between our territory and the conflict zone blurred, making it harder to know where safety ended and risk began. For the armed forces, this was code red. Outposts in the north went on high alert, with soldiers bracing for any sudden escalation. Our ships monitored the situation but were vastly outnumbered, facing a formidable presence that tested their resolve and readiness. Any miscalculation, a stray missile, an accidental encounter, could have devastating consequences, not just for soldiers, but for civilians and the entire region. China's drills weren't just practice for Taiwan. They threatened to blockade vital sea lanes, disrupt trade, and isolate our islands from the rest of the world. Manila was forced to confront the harsh reality of its vulnerable position in a volatile world, as uncertainty and anxiety gripped both leaders and ordinary citizens alike. As news of the drills saturated every platform, anxiety swept Metro Manila. The threat of conflict was suddenly real, discussed in every home, office and market. Hashtags like Dawn Hands Off PH and Protect Batanes trended, mixing patriotism with fear. Government alerts buzzed on phones, advising Northern Luzon to prepare emergency kits and stay informed. The warnings made the crisis personal, not just a distant headline. Panic buying began: gasoline, rice, water, while the stock market dipped. The crisis was now economic as well as security-related. The barrage of news and official warnings created a climate of uncertainty. Manila's usual energy was subdued, replaced by a sense of vulnerability. The city held its breath, hoping the warships and jets to the north would turn back. Everyone waited, praying for peace to hold one more day. For families of over 150,000 OFWs in Taiwan, the crisis was a nightmare. Every report of Chinese military movement brought fear. Was their loved one safe? Phone lines and internet were jammed as families desperately sought reassurance. OFWs described hearing jets overhead, seeing military convoys, and facing empty grocery shelves. The Philippine government urged Filipinos in Taiwan to prepare go-bags and no-shelter locations. At home, families were glued to the news, hearts pounding with every update. The thought of evacuating so many was daunting, and the emotional toll immense. For these families, every hour was filled with fear and hope for peace. In Batanes, the crisis hit hardest. The northernmost province, known for its resilient people and breathtaking landscapes, suddenly found itself at the epicenter of a growing conflict. The sea, once a lifeline for generations, became a no-go zone almost overnight. The familiar rhythm of daily fishing was abruptly broken. Chinese military drills created an invisible blockade, cutting off ancestral fishing grounds that Ivatan families had relied on for centuries. Fishermen stayed docked, their small wooden boats no match for the imposing warships patrolling the waters. The sense of helplessness grew. Local markets grew eerily quiet. Families lost their income overnight, and the community felt the absence of fresh catch on their tables. Fear spread quickly. Had Chinese ships crossed into municipal waters? Rumors and uncertainty fueled anxiety among the villagers. What if a missile went astray? The threat of violence felt closer than ever, casting a shadow over daily life. The provincial government activated emergency plans, inventorying supplies and advising residents to prepare for any scenario, no matter how unlikely. The serene landscape of Batanes was overshadowed by dread as uncertainty loomed over the once peaceful islands. The plight of Ivatan fishermen became a national concern, a symbol of violated sovereignty and the struggle of ordinary Filipinos. If we couldn't protect our own people in our own waters, what did that say about our nation's strength and unity? The suffering in Batanes sent a clear message. The crisis was real, and its first victims were the most vulnerable: the elderly, the children, and the families who depended on the sea. The islands, used to braving typhoons and natural disasters, now faced a man-made storm that threatened their way of life. The blockade was not just economic, it was an assault on identity, tradition, and the very survival of the Ivatan people. The nation watched, united in concern for Batanes, hoping for a resolution, and standing in solidarity with those on the front lines of this invisible conflict. Malacañang became the nerve center of crisis response. President Marcos Jr. convened emergency meetings, focusing on two priorities: protecting Filipinos at home and abroad, and defending territorial integrity. Evacuation plans for OFWs in Taiwan and residents of Batanes were activated. The armed forces went on high alert, intensifying patrols in the north. Public communication was key. Daily briefings and the Honda Pilipinas campaign aimed to inform, not panic. Citizens were urged to prepare emergency kits and stay updated through official channels. Diplomats lodged strong protests and coordinated with allies, especially the US, Japan, and Australia. The message: the Philippines was not a party to the Taiwan issue, but its security was directly threatened. The nation braced for the worst, even as it worked to pull back from the brink. The world took notice. The US, bound by treaty, condemned China's drills and sent a carrier strike group to the region. Japan and Australia joined in, calling for de-escalation and respect for international law. The G7 urged China to resolve differences peacefully. The crisis activated alliances. The enhanced defense cooperation agreement with the U.S. gained new urgency. Joint patrols with U.S. and Australian forces increased in the West Philippine Sea. The presence of Allied warships provided a crucial counterbalance to China's might. International support boosted Filipino morale, showing the value of a rules-based order. The world's eyes were on the region, sending a message to Beijing aggression would not go unanswered. The horizon now held not just threats, but the reassuring presence of allies. The Philippines was not alone in this crisis. The stakes were global, and the world was watching. The crisis was a wake-up call for Philippine defense. Years of slow modernization gave way to urgent action. Congress passed a supplemental defense budget. The focus more fighter jets, modern frigates, and land-based missile systems. The concept of archipelagic defense was finally implemented, creating layers of protection for our islands. Security alliances deepened. Joint exercises expanded with the US, Japan, Australia, and even European partners. EDCA sites became hubs for training and pre-positioning defense assets. The shift wasn't just about hardware, but a new mindset: geography as a strategic asset, not a vulnerability. The painful lessons of January 2026 forged a stronger, more resilient defense posture. The nation vowed never to feel so helpless again. Amidst geopolitics and military tension, the Filipino spirit shone. Bayanihan came alive. Families in Batanes shared resources, community kitchens fed the hungry. Across the country, citizens organized relief drives and support for the North. Social media became a tool for hope and unity, not just anxiety. Patriotism surged, flags waved, art and music celebrated Filipino courage. The hashtag #StarStandWithPH became a rallying cry for unity and dignity. The nation's greatest asset was its resilience, forged through hardship and hope. The crisis proved that the heart of the Philippines lies in its people, united, compassionate, and unbreakable.